let's go.
Oh dear.
Okay, let's go.
Did everybody else hear that? Music at this went absolutely mad. I do apologise for that. I may be using that fairly limited way today. Mike should be working. Everybody hearing me? Not a great start for no, it's not a great start for March. Maybe it is March Madness. It's just attacked me. I don't know. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this Sunday? Hope you're all fit and well. How's the weather where you are? Maybe that's what caused my music issues there. Blowing so hard this morning, it scared one of my dogs. First thing I knew about it, 8 stone of trembly boxer dog climbed on the bed and laid on top of me this morning for some reassurance. I stopped breathing because he was laying on top of me. Thank you very much indeed. Good morning to Gary Muir, who says the mic is okay. Ken Hatches here. Thought you were DJ today. Yeah, I'm going to avoid the music for now. All okay now. Thank you very much indeed. And thanks for the heads up on that, Dan. Yes, it is chucking it down here as well. Yes, good morning. Good morning. We made it through another week. What a strange week it was as well. We had a mayoral candidate who said he was Batman. We had Tim Burnhope of JCB laying out NRMM, and we featured some truly awesome kit. We've got some more of that to come as well. I'd like to think we've probably ruffled a few feathers along the way as well, particularly over on LinkedIn, where I feel like I'm on fine form. Good morning to Rockbusters Inc., all the way from beautiful Canada. Oh, Canada. Good morning to Rockbusters Inc., all the way from the front. Is it frozen this time of year? I don't know. Pretty good week all round. Just quickly, date for your diary. The next Saturday social, I'm telling you now, will be on Saturday, the 9th of March. You might recall that the last one, I actually called it the second Saturday social. Well, this will be the second Saturday in March, which seems to make perfect sense. So I hope to see you all there. The timing is pretty damn perfect because I'm going to be away a little bit later that week as well. So I'll tell you more about that closer to the date. Mick Norton says, what does Mick Norton say? He says weather's getting a bit rough around here in Wakefield. Mrs. should have finished the concreting before the snow arrives. Gary Muirhead, the sun is slitting the trees in Scotland. The weather appears to be upside down. You should be having what we're having. We should be having the sunshine. Now, one thing I'm going to throw up on the screen very, very quickly, because it's something that I do want to touch on a bit later in the show. Our friend Footy is at home, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a fine place to be. But he's at home because at about 5:30 last night, he was off-hired. Off-hired at 5:30 at night on a Thursday, which means there's no chance whatsoever of him finding anything to go and do to earn some money today. What do we make of that, people? I don't think that's good. I don't think that's good at all. And there you are. There is Footy again. Been calling up everyone. There's no work at the moment. Yes, that's one of the things I'd like to touch on today. But we will get to all of that. But we do need other things to do. So let me do that thing that I do around about this time every single day. I'm going to roll the intro. I am going to post the question of the day, and I'm going to get this show on the road. So let's do that. immediate answers on this idea of laying people off at ridiculous times. Dan Cullen says, unbelievable how these companies do this. It's diabolical. And he then goes on to say, this is the absolutely relevant point, I think, but it's if us operators don't show up, it's a different story. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? Goes back to the discussion we had with Andy Stevens a few weeks ago. Who speaks for the construction worker? The construction worker, that's who. And do they speak loud enough? I don't think they are given the opportunity. Mick Norton says, Footy's off-hire predicament highlights the indifference of callous employer regime who care little, if anything rather, for their employees. 100%. 100%. We'll keep talking about that. I've just posted our question of the day, so you should be seeing that. It is Friday, the 1st of March. Pinch punch, first of the month to everyone. And happy St. David's Day to all our friends down in Welsh Wales. May your day be filled with daffodils, with leeks, and lava bread. Not sure if you want the lava bread, but hey, you know, it's one of your national dishes, so you knock yourselves out. Stephen Guthrie is here. Morning, lads. Long time no speak. Stephen, it hasn't been the same without you. So welcome back. Welcome back indeed. There we are, Gary Muirhead. Unfortunately, that's the agency way these days. They think they can just pick you up and drop you when they like. Just here to fill a gap. Yep, absolutely right. There's nothing I can add to that. That is precisely the point. Precisely the point. Now, it is, I've already said it's the 1st of March. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, we are going to give you a brief glimpse of what the new Volvo F Series excavators might just look like. We're behind the levers of a Cat ultra-high demolition boom, a day in the life of a mining truck operator. We've got more new tools from AMI Attachments, plus we're looking ahead to Instagram in the company of the high-tech folk over at Track Unit. But before we get into all that, we do have the small matter of today's mystery machine, which I'm going to put on the screen right about now. There you are. That's what you've got to work with. Anybody's got any thoughts on that? And while you're doing that, let me just have a very quick look here. Chris Ford has just arrived. Morning, Chris. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Peter will know where I'm coming from. Okay. Morning, Stephen. Says Dan Cullen. Graham Footy Williams, one of the Dozer drivers, said I was the best operator they've had in a long time doing a GPS. Unfortunately, last in, first out. And there is somebody called Excavator BD who is trying to get us to go and look at their Facebook profile. Don't think we're to do that. Excavator BD, if you would like to advertise on this show, please give me a call. But to do it free of charge, don't think so. Jim Turner, too small to see anything much on the phone. Yes, that's kind of the idea. Gary Muirhead says it's a Volvo EC140. It is not. It is not a Volvo EC140. We'll come back to that, shall we? While you are figuring that out, let me very quickly. I've just realised I didn't play the animation out of that, did I? Doesn't matter. Let me very quickly remind you of our question of the day. Yeah, weird one this. Our question of the day is quite simply this. We all wake up tomorrow to find that aliens have landed right here on Earth. Some might suggest they're already here, but who should be the spokesman or woman for all humanity? I don't think there's a politician up to the job, and I certainly wouldn't want to put a church or religious leader taking on the responsibility. Don't think they're up to the job. Now, a few years ago, I might have suggested David Bowie on the basis he was the best of us and was possibly an alien himself, but that's no longer an option. So who are you calling upon as the voice of humanity? Personally, I think Sir David Attenborough gets the gig. Smart, eloquent, way more intelligent than most. Besides, over the course of his career, I think he's earned the gig. But what about you? Who would you appoint as a global spokesman or spokeswoman? Let us know in the chat. Who should be the first to communicate with our alien overlords? I'd like to get your thoughts on that. We'll come back to that at the end of the show. I think we're going to have to change the mystery machine format. That's what you had to work with. Gary Muirhead's got it already. Even the frame isn't a full piece of machinery, and he's managed to get it. Let me roll through just to prove that I'm not lying. Develon, DD130. Gary Muirhead, you, sir, have the eyes of an eagle. Don't know how you did it. Genuinely don't. Unless you've got this place. Have you got this place bugged by any chance? Just wow. Congratulations. Ruined the rest of the show, obviously. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with that time now. But well done. Ken, dear Lord. I guess it kind of depends on what it is you're trying to achieve in your first conversation with our new alien overlords. He is recommending Nigel Farage or Donald Trump. Personally, I think that would be enough, particularly Trump. I think that would be enough to make them pack their bags and go back home again. But yeah, wouldn't get my vote necessarily. Mick Norton says, our global spokesperson, says Demolition. She'll really baffle the aliens. Baffles me. Fair play, Gary Muirhead, says Jim Turner. And Gary Muirhead says, yes, there's a mic hiding in your sign behind you. See that? That's from Gary. I think he may have just given the game away. I'm going to go over and say good morning to our friend Craic over at CSW. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much indeed for being here. And my other half, my better half, generally, has said our global spokesperson for all humanity, Mickey Flanagan. I wonder what they'd make of Mickey Flanagan, particularly the accent. Right, enough. Let us crack on. Let's get on with the show, because I've got something really interesting to show you literally as soon as we get back after this. It is, I would argue, the worst kept secret in the world. We all know that the arrival of the Volvo F Series excavators is imminent. I met up with Volvo in Paris last month, and I specifically asked them about it and was told once again, they're coming, just not quite yet. But then last night, I was looking for something totally unconnected on YouTube, and I came across this, which I believe is from Japan. So, is this the shape of Volvo excavators to come? Looks kosher to me. What do you think? Listen, if somebody has mocked that up, they've done a very, very good job of it. But yes, we could be looking at the EC400 and the EC500F in the very near future. What do we make of that, people? There is Craig saying long-awaited F. Yes, it is long-awaited. We've been certainly talking about it for a good year or more. Not that I personally believe there's much wrong with the current series of Volvo excavators, but yes, Dan Cullen says it looks hot. It certainly does look hot. Can't wait to see those in the flesh at some point in the future. Now, let's move along.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, a week or two ago, we brought you a film that showed the time it takes to switch out a boom on a Caterpillar ultra-high demolition machine. Well, now the company has released a new film that shows exactly how that's accomplished from within the cab. Anybody that's ever driven a high reach, I think you might enjoy this.
To activate the boom coupler system on a Caterpillar Next Gen Ultra High excavator, there's quite a few steps that have to be done in a certain order to make sure that the operator doesn't accidentally unlock the boom pins while in the air. The first step is to remove the safety caps on the boom. These safety caps are there just in case the operator would accidentally go through this next procedure with the front in the air. So once the safety caps are removed, the next step is to go in and activate the boom coupler. So we're going to go into our main application menu, go into settings, find machine settings. We're going to scroll down until we find UHD setting. So on this screen, this tells us what front is currently installed and active on the machine. In this case, it's our retrofit or digging boom in the straight position. We need to change this to boom coupler only to activate the boom coupler and hit apply. So now that the boom coupler is active, we can come back to the right-hand control panel and find the boom coupler switch. The first thing we're going to do is put the hydraulic lockout lever into the unlock position and hit this button once. As I hit this button, the green light does not come on. Back on the main screen, a warning pops up asking, is it okay to unlock the boom coupler? We hit the unlock button, and now we come back to the boom coupler switch, and you notice the green light is now on. So once I hit this, the boom pins will unlock. So now that the boom coupler is unlocked, the boom is ready to be changed out. If we need to lock the pins back in, the green light is still active. We can just hit this button once, and it's going to send the pins back out into the locked position. So once the boom pins are locked, we need to tell the machine what front we have installed. So now we're going to go back into the UHD settings, verify that the boom coupler is locked, and it's important to get out of the cab and verify that both pins are out on both sides of the front. So we hit lock to verify the pins are locked, and now we can change the boom configuration to the current front that we have. So in this case, it's the retrofit straight front. Hit apply. And now that setting is saved, we can shut the machine off, and we need to do about a 2 to 3 minute power cycle with the master off for these settings to take effect.
Pretty smart. Now, we've had some interesting answers to our question of the day, which is who should be the global spokesman for when our alien overlords arrive. This first reference, that Japanese advert for Volvo about as appealing as George Galloway MP. We're going to come back to George Galloway immediately with Chris Ford saying anyone but George Galloway. I found myself this morning somewhat torn with George Galloway. There's a bit of me, the notion of the Workers' Party, if you take it at face value, the Workers' Party, there's a large part of me, my working class roots bubbling to the surface, that thinks that's a good thing. But then I remember his appearance on Celebrity Big Brother with the whole cat thing. Oh, that was bad. That really was bad. I also wonder, there's lots of news headlines today saying that Keir Starmer should be worried about the victory of George Galloway and the Workers' Party last night. I wonder if we will see the same overreaction by Labour to that one success that we saw with the Conservative Party when Nigel Farage had a bit of success. Complete overreaction, and that, to my mind, is precisely how we ended up with Brexit. I wonder if the Labour Party will overreact, complete knee-jerk reaction on that as well. Going back to the question of the day, who should be our global humanity spokesperson? Michael McIntyre. I love the fact that Gary Muirhead hates Michael McIntyre as much as I do. After seeing him and listening to him, that absolute spanner, I'm sure they'll turn their heels and get back on their spaceship and head anywhere else but be around this unbearable person. Yes. Just one thing I want to pick up on within that is the expression, the absolute spanner. One of my listen, I weave words for a living, but one of my absolute favorite things is people that can insult without swearing. There's a really good bit of Danny Dyer referring to somebody as an absolute melon. Somehow it sounds like he's swearing, but an absolute spanner. Well done. Gary Muirhead enjoyed the touchscreen display on the Caterpillar. Chris Ford says that screen works a lot faster than my machine. Press button. Wait. Yes, indeed. It most certainly is. And there is Peter McKenna arriving late but welcome nonetheless. And Stephen Guthrie laid out the red carpet and said good morning to him. Good morning indeed. Now let's move along. This is where myself and my audience go off in different directions. Shame Trump isn't English. No, it isn't. He couldn't do any worse than the clowns that have been in power for the last 20 years in the UK. Donald Trump is the worst human since Hitler, in my opinion, but that's just me. Incidentally, and I wrote it down. I got carried away with Michael McIntyre being a spanner. Did anybody notice the name of the guy doing the guided tour on the Cat UHD? Yes, his name was Jaden Cool. Jaden Cool. What a name. Jim Turner. Not heard Galloway's politics, so can't pass comment on him. But he is a lot more knowledgeable than most politicians about political history and the reasons why British governments have been their own worst enemies. Yeah. Listen, he does. Much like Boris Johnson, he does come across as a bit of a tit. He does. A lot of politicians do that. But make no mistake, George Galloway is a smart cookie. Smart cookie. Peter McKenna saying it started at 7:30, not stopped raining since. It started earlier and it's still going on here, down in leafy Surrey. Now we all get out of bed, we all shower and get dressed, we all drink coffee and eat breakfast, we all go to work. But where we go to work can be very different. Imagine your working day was spent behind the wheel of a huge mining truck. In fact, don't bother imagining, because I'm about to show you precisely what that looks like.
I work a 7 on 7 off roster, day and night rotating shifts, 12.5-hour shifts. My alarm goes off very early in the morning. This gives me enough time to change, have breakfast, get my bag ready for the day. Before I catch the bus, I pack my lunch.
When we get to the mine, we go to the crib hut, do a pre-start, which tells us what's been going on.
Where we're going, what our job is for the day.
Start the day off with a pre-start. I will walk to my truck. I will look to make sure that there's no people on my machine or around, and then I'll walk up and isolate my machine, and then I will walk up the stairs to the cab and I'll test for dead. I'll then go down and start performing my pre-start. We check the machine over for defects and potential oil leaks, and just make sure the machine's safe to operate. Do our brake checks, then we leave the go line and head down to the digger that we're assigned to and get our first load and continue our shift on.
The main role of the haul truck driver is drive down to the digger, reverse under the digger, he fills you up, beeps you off, and then you head to the bun and tip off.
And for the next 12 hours, I will work around the mine site. Every day is different, there's always variety, no day is the same.
Get on the bus, head back to camp. When I get back to camp, I'll go back to my room, and I'll usually go for a half-hour walk. I'll make the prep when I get back to the mess, have my meal, and go back to my room and relax.
I then tend to go to dinner, catch up with mates, talk about our day. Then I'll call the family, call my partner, debrief, wind down, chat to the kids, and then we do it all over again.
Yeah, I realised travelling over the same haul road hour after hour, 12-hour shifts, day after day, monotonous. But if I was going to do it in anything, it would definitely be one of those trucks. Absolutely fantastic. Mick Norton says, George Galloway, extremely articulate, and Keir Starmer will be filling his knickers. There's a thought I could have done without in my head. Filling his knickers at the prospect of Commons clashes to come. Yes, I bet he will. He'll tie that clown Starmer in knots, and I hope he does. Can't stand Starmer. Total sneak, he says. Okay. Eat, sleep, tip, reload, repeat. Yeah, that's about the size of it. Did look like they were pretty well cared for, though, I have to say. Peter McKenna says, question of the day, we definitely need a whole new perspective, out with the old, bring in the new. Maybe some younger politicians may be able to save the country, but it will never happen. Yeah, when I don't think there's any coincidence, regardless of their politics and regardless of your politics, when you look back at American politicians, who would you say would be the standout presidents of the last 50, 60, 70 years? JFK, Obama, both very young. Funny that can't be a coincidence, I'm sure. Instead of which we seem, that not as bad as the Americans, who are basically the two people running for president at the moment are from the Jurassic period, as far as I can tell. Now, let me take that off the screen because we do need to go elsewhere. Where do we need to go next? I think we need to go there.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Do you remember those old Apple iPhone ads that always ended with, "There's an app for that"? AMI attachments could do something very similar because regardless of the application, they seem to have an attachment for that as well.
For tight spaces and awkward places, the AMI side dump bucket provides the wide versatility you need in narrow work sites of road construction, highway maintenance, and trenching. Dumping sideways, the AMI side dump bucket is powered and controlled using a cushioning cylinder. The two-way cushioning eases the bucket's speed at both ends of the stroke. Cushioning reduces machine shake and sway, which minimizes wear and tear, giving you better control. After dumping, the bucket returns to its original position with a V-shaped socket that firmly guides and holds the bucket in the exact spot every time. This prevents warping caused by misalignment over time. The AMI side dump bucket is also designed to load and dump in the normal forward position. AMI's auto lock clip is an important feature that spreads the weight of the bucket off the side pivot hinge only. This also prevents the bucket from side dumping unexpectedly, a key safety feature on any job site. When rolled back, the auto lock disengages, making side dumping available again. As with all AMI buckets, filling is easy with the slight incline of the bucket floor that gets the material rolling. The easier it rolls, the easier it is to fill and be on your way. So, widen your profit margin with AMI's side dump bucket and improve your productivity on narrow work sites.
Ken Hatcher saying, right, handy tool. Yeah, right application, nothing short of genius, I would say. Now we're going to be going a bit more. What's this? Cushioning for cylinders useful and enhancing safety on that shovel loader. Side dumping, says Mick Norton. Dan Cullen. Wow, nice kit. Totally agree. We're going all high tech in just a moment, but I do need to do this first. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but the Intermat show in Paris in just a couple of months' time, less than 2 months' time now, in actual fact, has two core themes: decarbonisation and digitisation. Several companies have a foot in both camps, and one such company is Track Unit, which is harnessing technology to drive greater sustainability. We caught up with them at the Intermat Press Days a few weeks ago to bring you an exclusive interview, which I need to grab off of my hard drive. Bear with me 1 second while I do that. Let me have a look. Must be here somewhere. It is.
Hi, My name is Lærke Ullerup. I work at Track Unit, and I look forward to see you at Intramat 2024. Track Unit is an IoT company, a technology company. We have IoT devices sitting in equipment. We collect data from job sites, from machines, from equipment, and we send all of that data to the cloud. And then we deliver applications and different products on top of that data to help our customers drive better operations, manage their equipment more efficiently, drive more safety, and overall drive more sustainability for the construction industry. And it started out with a dot on the map, simply trying to understand where is my machines, how can I locate them, and since then we are starting to see many other use cases unfold as technology is more adopted and we have an increase in data points that we can collect from equipment. So that means we can service machines better, so we can now understand when are they about to break down, so we can be proactive and we can prevent breakdowns before they happen. We can understand and give access to equipment, so we can make sure that only operators who are actually certified or trained to use the equipment are actually doing that. That means we can prevent hazards or injuries before they happen. And we can also understand and track and report on emissions, so we can drive more sustainable outcomes for the planet. On the one side, if you are truly digital at the core, that means you are collecting data, you understand how your equipment and how your site is driving emissions. And on the other side, that focus on emissions is also gaining a lot of momentum and interest. We see new legislation coming up from the European Commission. We see a big push also from the public domain on making sure that we all act more sustainably, and we see from contractors a big requirement to be able to document and track and report and improve your greenhouse gas emissions. And we can solve that with data, with technology, and make sure that companies can understand their baseline and they can set targets to reduce their emissions. The solution that Track Unit offers around emissions reporting is that we look after any type of machine. So we look after we collect the data from combustion engines, but also from electric equipment. And no matter what you use, our data model will convert that and give you your greenhouse gas emissions. And actually the kind of real unique thing about the Track Unit emissions reporting is that even though that piece of equipment is not connected to the cloud, we can still track and report emissions with a very high accuracy because we know machines. The large data pool that we have is set up now in a way where we use AI and machine learning to make sure that no machine is left behind, even if it's not connected to the cloud yet. Being able to connect the man and the machine, or the operator and the equipment, is something that's been really hard. Usually people would just borrow keys or pads from each other and anybody could basically open a machine. But now today we all have a phone in our pocket and we're all used to kind of opening doors and cars in our private lives with our phones. Why could that not happen at the job site as well? And use that as a way to make sure that only those who are actually certified and trained can operate the equipment. In the future, we will definitely see a push where technology will support behavior and give feedback to the person operating the machine so they can use it more efficiently, or they can idle less, or they can, speed up, speed down, make sure that they operate the equipment in the most ideal way. And that also means people can learn and they can grow and they can get new skills and get better at their job. One of the things OEMs are interested in is designing better machines that are more fit for purpose. And the usage data that they get back from telematics and from the track unit solutions allow them to re-engineer their equipment to make sure that it solves the specific problem at hand. So maybe you learn from that feedback based on the data that your lift does not need to be 60 feet tall. Maybe it's just enough that it's 30. And that can actually mean that you create a new product based on that.
We appear to have had a few sound issues there, and I don't know why. Mick Norton has just said your sound appears to be slightly out of sync. I checked it. I mean, I can see it here, but I checked it on another monitor over here, and I've also checked it on Instagram. It seemed and Instagram is laggy in a big way. That seemed absolutely fine. I don't know quite what the issue was. Peter McKenna says it seems okay on Facebook for a change. Let's have a look. Peter McKenna says, sends shivers down my spine. Don't you just love the Swedish accent? It's actually Danish, but I get the idea. Chris Ford says, brilliant piece of dubbing. There was no dubbing. She was speaking English better than me. Chris Ford says, whatever language she's speaking, she just told me a side tip bucket, some fuel. She just told me a side tip bucket, some fuel dye, and a divorce. Well done. Who's just left us? Stephen Guthrie has gone back to work. Have a good day, Stephen. I am wishing you luck, and I'm wishing you well at the same time. And there is Peter McKenna waving him goodbye. And apparently, even my speech is out of sync this morning. I'm looking at it. I am looking at it, and it's absolutely fun. Well, I don't know. Just had a convo with a blue-carded operator. He reckons all the red-carded ops are taking all the jobs that the blue cards deserve. Was he never a red card, says Peter McKenna. And Peter McKenna is also saying, looks okay at mine. Technology. After the music freaked out this morning, frankly, anything is possible. Boss Demolition just joined us on Instagram as well. Good morning to you as well. Have to say, the track unit lady, very, very smart. I can't pronounce her name, but she's a very smart lady. Mightily impressed with the track unit technology as well. They are not just in construction. They do a lot of stuff outside, and they're bringing some really serious tech to the industry as well. All things being equal, be doing more with them at the show itself. That is going to do us. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like into the chat for the final time this week. Find out what you're all saying about global spokespeople for humanity and stuff. Yes, I'm going to do that in just a second. I'm going to leap gazelle-like into the chat. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. And I hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back with the Craic right after this. Now, do I dare put the music on? I don't think I do. Chris Ford has just said, shout a bit louder. I'm about to start the crusher. I'll just get closer to the microphone. How about that? Thank God, says Peter McKenna. I got here for the best bit. I think you did. Footy says, I can't go back to work. No machines to drive. Not sure what that last bit means. Get yourself an ear trumpet. I said an ear trumpet. Yeah, there's a thought. Let me go back to the very beginning of the chat, and then we'll get into our question of the day. After our mystery machine today was totally undermined by Mr. Muirhead. Good Lord, Gary, you must have the eyes like a hawk, I would say. Let's get rid of that. Who was first off the line? I bet it was Dan Cullen. It was. He was here before the show even started, and he said, top of the morning and happy St. David's Day. Yes. Is it? Do you do anything in Wales for St. David's Day? Do you all sport a daffodil? Do you all eat leeks? I don't know. Let me know. 40 is here, unfortunately stuck at home. Dan Cullen, as I've already said, is here. Mark Whiting is here. Good morning, Mark, and welcome. Gary Muirhead says, and he's summing up what everybody's thinking, I think. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Yes, happy Friday. No more work for me tomorrow. It's not strictly true because I've got to do my column for next week. But yes, I'm doing okay. I'm in fairly good state on that. Jim Turner's here as well. Morning, Jim. And Mick Norton's here. Dan Cullen saying pinch punch first of the month. Boom. Yeah, March. How in God's name is it March already? Seems like about 2 days ago it was Christmas and I was getting ready to wind down. But now I'm just getting wound up. Ken Hatcher says, "Oh, well, Ken's got the same weather at the moment that we had about 6 o'clock this morning." Seriously, I mean, we've got 2 boxer dogs. The big one, we didn't name him, but his name's Diesel, which seems oddly appropriate given what I do for a living. But Diesel weighs in at about 8 stone. And the first I knew about the wind, first thing this morning, was he basically whined, climbed up on the bed, and laid on my chest, 8 stone. And I was laying there thinking, I can't breathe properly, and I appear to be paralyzed. And then I looked up, and there he was, seeking reassurance. Dan Cullen very kindly reminded me of the mic. Mic was fine. Don't know what happened with the music this morning. I think I need to restart the server at some point. I haven't restarted it for about a fortnight, and I used to do it on a fairly regular basis, sometimes a daily basis, just to flush out any bugs that might have been in there. Not done it for about a fortnight because I've been so bloody busy. The mic is okay. Ken Hatcher says, "I thought you was a DJ." Yes, I was remixing our background music. I really wasn't. Ken says, "All okay now." Weather's getting a bit rough up here in Wakefield. Missy should have finished the concreting before the snow arrives. Are you actually getting snow? Are you getting snow? I know there is predictions of snow in certain places. I don't think we're among them, but are you going to get some of that? Gary Muirhead, in addition to ruining our game of our mystery machine, he's rubbing salt in the wound by enjoying the Scottish sunshine. Having said that, you know when you get sunshine elsewhere in the world, even down here in leafy Surrey, you get like a shaft of sunlight and you stand in it and you can feel the warmth. You do that in Scotland, it actually gets colder. They have a special sun in Scotland and it's freezing cold. And that was one of the bits that I wanted to talk about. There is a conversation actually going on over on LinkedIn at the moment on much the same line. Who was it started the thing? It was a guy called Steve Kerslake who was saying what is in place to protect the construction worker and her employer with regards to being laid off on a Friday. For example, project calls a labour agency and tells them to finish up 2 operatives tomorrow. Is there any protection for this worker? Notice period should be legally in place, be it employed or self-employed. Genuinely would like to know, as many are being dropped like a hat the moment the end of the week rolls around, including myself over the years. Has anyone got any thoughts on that? I mean, quite clearly, we have a situation with footy told at 5:30 on a Thursday night, you're not required tomorrow. So what are you supposed to do with that? I mean, I'm not going to pry into how much our man footy was due to earn today. But, it would have been worthwhile, would have helped pay the bills, would have helped pay the rent and so on down the line. And all of a sudden, just on a whim, somebody decided, no, and we're going to do it so late in the day, there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to get out of bed and watch a pillock in a silly hat. That's what they've done. Glenn Johnston's here as well. Dan Cullen, in agreement with that. Unbelievable how these companies do this. It's diabolical. It's a slightly odd one because I've often wondered about the amount of waste and inefficiency there seems to be within the construction and demolition industry, whereby they will, a site might hire a dumper, for example. They're using it fairly irregularly, and they hire it at the start of the job and the job's going to last for a month. They're actually using it about once every 3 days, but they never off hire it because it's just more convenient to have it there. That seems like a complete waste of money, a waste of resources, and it's completely inefficient. On the flip side of that, surely morally, if nothing else, not necessarily legally, but surely morally, you should be obliged. You've got to work, you've got a week's work on this site, or you've got a month's work, and then you deliver on that. rather than just laying people off as you see fit. Poxed weather here in the East Midlands. Rain and turning wintry later, apparently. Batten down the hatches, Jim. Batten down the hatches. Question of the day was this. And I've no idea what dark part of my rear end I plucked this from, but I was thinking, little green men crawl out of their fine spaceship and they say, take us to your leader. Now, obviously, we could take them to Rishi Sunak. That wouldn't be good. We could take them to Joe Biden. That wouldn't be good. We could take them to Vladimir Putin. He'd probably shoot them. So, who would you take these little green men to properly represent humanity? As I said, my personal preference would be Sir David Attenborough, because I believe he is the best of us. But I'd love to get your take on it. And I'm certainly not agreeing with my wife on her suggestion of Mickey Flanagan. And that there, going back to this business of being laid off and picked up, put down, there does seem to be this huge imbalance these days. And I have to preface this because I'm not a union person. I was in a union. I came out of the union, never went back in. So I'm not espousing unionization or anything like that. But there does seem to be a complete imbalance in the industry now, where employers can do precisely what they like and everybody else just tips their hat and says, yes, okay. Whether that's retentions, late non-payments, value engineering, or picking up staff and putting them down as they see fit. I think they've had it their own way for far too long. One of the things that I've written about for next week, we've got to the point now where the default reaction to anything from a client, major contractor, or a developer seems to be that we, within demolition and construction, just bend over. I think the bending over is done, because if we bend over much more, I think we will all need a GIMP mask to go with our hard hats. That's my take on it. You can read about that next week. Footage off our predicament highlights the indifference of a callous employer regime who care little, if anything, for their employees. Yeah, and these, don't let's forget, these are the same companies who once or twice a year will be all over LinkedIn and Facebook telling you how they are aware of mental health and all of that kind of stuff. And they also have on their mission statement, because they all do, people are our greatest asset. Would you really treat your greatest asset like that? I don't believe you would. Stephen Guthrie arrived and then left, but it's good to have him back in our midst. Gary Muirhead says, unfortunately, that's the way agencies are these days. They think they can just pick you up, drop you when they like, just here to fill a gap. Yeah. And I realise that amongst us, we've referred to operators as seat warmers. And I think we tend to think of those are perhaps the less skilled, the less committed among us, among operators. But I think that's precisely how employers and agencies actually see everybody in the industry. You are just basically there to keep a seat warm. And as soon as that seat doesn't need warming anymore, you're out the door. Chris Ford says, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Peter will know where I'm coming from. Don't know what that means. Excavator BD trying to get us to go and have a look at his profile. Not for me, thank you. Jim Turner said it was too small to see anything much on the phone. That was our mystery machine, and yet within seconds, Gary Muirhead had the right answer. Who should speak on behalf of humanity when the aliens arrive? Jim Turner is in no doubt. He's volunteered for the gig himself. Listen. Having had him on the show for the last 2-3 years or whatever it might be, I wouldn't mind that. Wouldn't mind that at all. Ken Hatcher guessing Caterpillar machines for our mystery machine. It was none of those. It wasn't a Caltrack either. It wasn't a JCB. It was, as we know, it was a Devellon DD130. I think I'm going to have to start going for older machines or more obscure machines. I don't think I'm going to have any choice, because the mystery machine is becoming, it happens it's all over so quickly that I almost need to apologize and have a cigarette about it. It's not good, so I need to try harder. Who should speak on behalf of humanity? Farage or Trump? Not really. Demolition? Okay, I think that's a better choice. Mickey Flanagan. I think he might make them laugh, but I don't think he'd get much across. Mick Norton. Unimpressed by the Volvo advert. Japanese advert for Volvo, about as appealing as George Galloway MP, unless he is a George Galloway fan, in which case that's maybe a compliment. Don't know. Chris Ford, not, quite clearly not a George Galloway fan. Anyone but George Galloway. As I say, if bearing in mind all we've said about employees' rights and being laid off at a moment's notice and everything else, if the Workers' Party really was the Workers' Party, you remember like the Labour Party used to be. You remember when it was for the working person, the working man, the working woman, and it wasn't run by a sir. You remember that? Well, maybe if George Galloway's Workers' Party were that, then maybe we would have a bit less of the way that these employees are being treated. Do I believe that to be the case? No, I don't. Gary Muirhead, who apparently is fighting a one-man battle to have Michael McIntyre erased. Question of the day: who should speak on behalf of humanity? Michael McIntyre. After seeing him and listening to him, that absolute spanner, I'm sure they'll turn their heels and get back on the spaceship and head anywhere else but around this unbearable person. I don't know if I've asked this before, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Are there any, I know a lot of you work with radios on and stuff like that. Are there any musicians, be they singers or bands or whatever it might be, who you find so objectionable that it's not actually enough to switch channels when they come on? You have to switch the radio off. Because I do, and I maybe I'm just an absolute freak of nature. Some might argue that was plainly obvious. But if Phil Collins or Diana Ross or Robbie Williams come on my radio, I can't change channel. I have to turn it off to cleanse the airwaves. Anybody else? I think if Michael McIntyre had a radio show, I think Gary might go with that. But if anybody's got any more like that, I'd love to hear from you. Love the touchscreen display on the Caterpillar. Much better than the one that Chris Ford is working with, apparently. Screen works a lot faster than my machine. Press button, wait for it. Should I tell you about kettles? About 18 months ago. For reasons that I didn't understand, because our kettle was perfectly serviceable, my wife went out and bought a new kettle. And she came home saying, not only does it hold more water, but it's energy saving. And the reason it was energy saving was in order to make a cup of tea, you had to put the water in it and then basically go on holiday for a fortnight and then come back when it had boiled. It was I would have been better off putting cold water into a mug and then sitting there with a cigarette lighter underneath. It was as slow as anything. My eldest son, so frustrated was he at the time it took to make a cup of coffee, he bought us a new one, which now heats the water properly. And it's just reminded me of Chris Ford with his screen. That idea with the kettle that we have now, I come down in the morning, I put the kettle on, I feed the dogs, and by the time I finish feeding the dogs, I turn around and I can pour hot water into the coffee cups. This one that my wife bought, I could have gone back to bed, had an hour's sleep, taken the dogs for a walk, and still wouldn't be boiled when I came back. Just thought I'd mention that in passing, because she's probably listening. Question of the day. Shame Trump isn't English. It isn't. It isn't. He couldn't do any worse than the clowns that have been in power for the last 20 years. You think? Have you heard him? Oh, dear Lord. I mean, setting aside the fact that he is a bit rapey and a complete narcissist, he's orange, he's a misogynist. Even setting aside all of that, Listen to one of his speeches. That somebody actually reproduced one of him the other day when he was talking about, if you want to see a bird graveyard, go to the bottom of any wind turbine in the world, where you will find heaps of bald eagles that have been massacred by wind turbines. The ramblings of a complete lunatic. Jim Turner says, not heard Galloway's policies, so can't pass comment on him, but he is a lot more knowledgeable than most politicians about political history and the reasons why British governments have been their own worst enemies. That was one of the things that sort of led me to talk about David Cameron's overreaction to the presence of Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage, basically, yes, he had a lot of media support and a lot of hype, but he hadn't won any seats. He wasn't making any real impact. But all of a sudden, there was this panic within the Conservative Party. We have to give the nation the right to vote on Brexit. We have to move slightly more to the right and so on down the line. And look where we are now. And that's why we've had Priti Patel and Suella Braverman sinking little boats off our coasts and stuff. I reckon, as I say, the newspapers have said today, George Galloway will have put the fear of God into Keir Starmer. Watch what happens with that. There'll be an overreaction, guaranteed. Mick Dalton says Galloway is extremely articulate and Starmer will be filling his knickers. Lovely turn of phrase on the show this morning. Filling his knickers at the prospect of Commons clashes to come. Yes, I bet he is. Trying to read something on Instagram and it's just gone off the screen, so I don't know what it said. Let's have a look. Jim Turner says he'll tie that clown Starmer in knots, and I hope he does. Can't stand Starmer, a total snake. Yeah, but that does seem to be a prerequisite of being in politics these days. Look upon Michael Gove, if you can bear to. Look upon that. Basically, his main skill is probably on his CV. His main skill apparently is stabbing people in the back, and yet he is the person we've entrusted the levelling up of the country. Anybody noticed how much the country has levelled up under his guidance? Are you seeing that? Are you seeing a levelling up? Have you noticed how much better our roads are and our infrastructure and our schools and our hospitals? Have you noticed that? No, me either. Peter McKenna says we definitely need a whole new perspective, out the old, bringing the new. Maybe some younger politicians may be able to save the country, but it will never happen. It's, and I don't want to go down this road, but I'm going to allude to it and then move on. That, unfortunately, is where you have an issue. Look at an organisation like the National Federation of Demolition Contractors, or the Construction Leadership Council, or the Federation of Master Builders. You get this group of old people who have always done it this way, and unless you agree to do it that way into the future, you are led to the door. And that's exactly what we've got now. And let's be honest, I mean, Rishi Sunak is not an old fella, but man alive, is he stuck in the past. Not quite to the same degree as Jacob Rees-Mogg, who apparently, when he leaves the office, he goes back to Dickensian times, apparently. Cushioning for cylinders, useful and enhances safety on that shovel loader side dumping. Yes, Mick, you're absolutely right. Stephen Guthrie, before he left, said that loading shovel would be better than this dodgy old Hydrema dumper I've been on this week. Horrible to drive, he says. Then we had some issues with sound, which don't seem to be universal. Peter McKenna, send shivers down my spine. Don't you just love the Swedish accent? I do. Quite like the Danish one too. Let's have a look. Who else do we have here? Mick Norton says, I'm writing to the newly appointed chair of the Plant Select Representative Organisation, PSRO, regarding red and blue carded operators and anomalies that exist. I'll keep you posted. Please do. Please do. We do like us an anomaly. look forward to the responses, Peter. Let's have a look. My Welsh-speaking sister sent me an email with... I find the Welsh language totally impenetrable. I don't even know where to begin with that. There is nothing within that I could attempt to pronounce and hope to get close. But that apparently is Welsh for Happy St. David's Day. At least that's what he's saying. She might be being rude. I honestly don't know. There's no protection if you're self-employed with regards to being laid off. No, you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, not much we can do as we're self-employed, and that's where the disregard for operators comes in. Yeah, and you know, let's face it, that's exactly how the employers want it. But you would have thought that if the 2.8, 2.9 million construction operatives in the world, or in the UK rather, clubbed together and said, we're not doing that anymore. You book us for a week, you get us for a week, and you pay us for a week, and you pay us on time as well. Peter McKenna says, bye folks, a break in the weather has prompted work to start. See you all later. Yes, indeed. Mick Norton says, I recently asked the Unite Union how many machine drivers were within their membership, and they said hundreds. If true, I was wrong in my recent claim that there were just a few. Hundreds. It's like a handful, isn't it? I think if the aliens come, the best person will be Mick Norton, maybe the best candidate. Okay. If you would like to set forward for that job, if the aliens do land, I'm going to send them straight to Mick Norton or to Jim Turner. I'd agree with Mrs. Demolition News, Mickey Flanagan. Mickey Flanagan, ideal. He has the IQ and Ice Cube. Chris Ford, bringing us down to our usual level. The mystery machine today was like sex. All anticipation whether you're going to get it, and then it's all over in 28 seconds. Yes, it is very, very true. Listen, I'm not going to go off down that, but do you remember when you were, I don't know, 16, 17, 18, and you were either seeing a young lady or you'd just met a young lady, and all that was going through your mind was will she? Will she? Will we? Yeah. Let's have a look. Don't like R&B or this modern day music. I love 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s music. I'd actually narrow it down even further than that. If it's not in the 70s and the 80s, I want no part of it. Thank you very much. Let's have a look who we got here. Good show, says our friend Craig over at CSW. Have a good weekend. All Must Scoot super cool prototype attachment has just arrived. Oh, look forward to the video on that. A prototype attachment, like the idea. I've not read your question of the day. What did I miss? Dan, send it to me again. I don't know how I've missed that. Chris Ford says, we've had a varied week this week. Diggers, alternative fuel, and a bit of intrigue and politics. Yes, indeed. Where is Batman today? I don't know. I'm off fighting crime with his underpants on the outside of his costume, I guess. I don't like to do this to the guy because, he came on the show and he was, I thought he was good value. But he phoned me the following day to warn me about how Sadiq Khan was leading us down to a path where we would be forbidden from traveling and may well be forced to eat insects or something. I kind of zoned out at that point. I'm going to be honest. Let's have a look. Yes. The suggestions for our representative for our first encounter with aliens would be Nigel Williams or Jim Turner. Nigel Williams had given what for, wouldn't he? Yeah, absolutely. I see the government back down on the pickup trucks tax as tier 1 contractors kicked up a storm. That's the point. When you do kick up a storm, there was, I don't know if anybody else remembers this, there was a I think it was a mayor or something. A mayor of Rome decided to outlaw motor scooters in the city of Rome because of all the congestion they were causing. And basically, Rome, all of them, everybody that lived in Rome and that owned a motor scooter, descended upon the town hall and said, "Not on your Nelly," or words to that effect in Italian. And they were forced to say, "No, you've probably got a point." And motor scooters still exist today. That's where, listen, I don't like the idea of French farmers potentially disrupting my trip to Paris. I don't like the idea of spreading manure up the side of the town hall and all that kind of stuff. But if it gets what you want, maybe they've got a point. Maybe they've got a point. I think that's going to do us. As I say, we've got a full lineup of shows next week. We've also got our first, or our latest rather, episode of our Saturday Social. That'll be next Saturday. That's the 9th. So hope to see you there. I think that's digger drivers descend on 10 Downing Street and say we're not telling you what you tell us to do. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine that. I mean, bearing in mind how the government has picked up and put down things like HS2 and stuff like that. You want us to do what? Well, we'll negotiate what you want us to do. Looking forward to Saturday next week. I expect you to be there because you didn't turn up last time, Dan Cullen. Did you? Have I remembered that right? I think I have. So all digger drivers or people who are self-employed should then go to 10 Downing Street then. Listen, I wouldn't condone such action, but if you do decide to do that, I may well pop along and film it. I think Craig may have gone, but Dan Collins saying, CSW, any chance of a visit to your yard? Drop him a line on LinkedIn, or I'll tell you what, Dan, I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you immediately after the show. Everybody, please go and have a fantastic weekend. Please do that. And Footy says, no, Dan didn't attend last time. These part-timers, I don't know. Have a good weekend, everybody. See you Monday. When hopefully we can talk about another West Ham victory. I'm not hopeful, but you never know. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic day. All the very best.